For the amount of money that I've spent in hotels in the last couple months, that would be like 4 months rent. It feels like.
Right.
I don't know because I haven't really done the math, but that's what it feels like.
She's gonna crunch the nums and see.
I am gonna crunch the nums. I'm gonna crunch some nums, and I'm gonna see. Shut it.
I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm doing my best.
Busy. This is the first time we're doing the podcast together 2 weeks in a row, I feel like.
It could always be like this. It could be like this forever.
How? What would we do?
I would have to move back here.
You'd have to move back here.
Do you feel like if I did move back here, it would be, oh my God.
What?
A Japan Airlines plane burst into flames while landing in Tokyo.
Oh God.
All 367 passengers and 12 crew members evacuated the jet. Thank God.
Oh, good. Okay.
Jesus. That is terrifying though. That doesn't happen quite often.
No. Knock on wood.
Oh, because there was a Coast Guard plane that collided with it before it landed.
Oh God.
So that's not great.
Oh, I went to the Rose Parade yesterday.
I know. How was that?
I loved it. The only thing I didn't like was the Air Force flyover.
Nope. Don't like it. I don't like it.
It's for a couple reasons. For one, it's very expensive. And you know that I'm cheap. And I'm like, that money could be used for so much better things than flying over the parade. But also, I always feel like whenever they're doing anything, flying planes for like the spectacle of it,
dangerous.
There's a chance that something bad could happen.
Yeah, I mean, you always see those like tragedy at an air show.
Exactly.
things.
So I wasn't into that, but I loved the parade. My friend Emily Volman gave me the tickets because I never would have gotten it together to get tickets to the Rose Parade. We were practically in the parade. It was so fun. I'm so glad I got to do it.
I saw your Instagram stories. It looked amazing.
And my favorite part was the people scooping up the horse shit before the next marching band came along.
Very important job.
It was an important job, and it was high stakes because you only have a limited amount of time. There was a marching band coming from Hawaii, like coming down the street. They were here from Hawaii, which is amazing. And the horses before them had done multiple shits, and those people really, they worked hard. They didn't get them all, but the marching band successfully avoided the like 2 shits that they left behind, and then they ran back in and got it after. And I was like, what a job.
What a job.
Everyone was really like vibing with them and cheering them on. It was a ticking clock. It had everything. It had tension. It had danger.
Wow.
What did you do on your New Year's Day?
Well, we had New Year's Eve together. We didn't even talk about that.
We didn't even talk about that.
Come on.
I know people saw the photo. Yes, we saw each other on New Year's Eve.
Which was so nice. I knew you were going to be there. By the way, we didn't discuss it beforehand, but I like knew you were going to be there from Katie.
Yeah.
Because we were at our friend Katie and Mark's house, guys. And it was delightful.
I figured you were going to be there. And like usual in those things,
You never want to mention it because God forbid.
No. Well, I mean, I don't think Katie or Mark would care that we're talking about their wonderful New Year's Eve get together. No, I was going to say, sometimes when I see you at a thing like that, like where we didn't go together, like I always just want to let you mix and mingle, even though I really want to talk to you, but I feel like I get to talk to you all the time.
I know. I feel the same way.
Yeah. So I just like want to let you catch up with people that you haven't seen in a long time.
Which is a lot of people because I don't live here, you know.
Exactly.
You know I don't
exactly.
live here.
So we didn't really like spend the whole night together, but it always is very comforting and like a nice feeling to like look across the room and see you there in person.
Feel the same.
And then we got a picture together at midnight, and then I had to get out of there because like,
yeah,
I don't want to say, but someone in my party had like half a drink too much and started like fist bumping teenagers. And I was like, it's time to go.
I know who that was. Because I got a fist bump. And I'm not a teenager, but I did get a fist bump.
I'm like, as far as unruly behavior on New Year's Eve, fist bumping everyone isn't that bad, but you don't want to get a reputation as a fist bumper.
No. I'm asking Mark if he goes to Erewhon, if he'll get me a turkey bacon collard green wrap sandwich. I'll give you the other half if you want.
Oh my gosh. How much will that sandwich cost?
That sandwich is approximately $45. I'm kidding. But it is the best. It is like one of my favorites. I just fucking love Erewhon. I had this conversation with Simran over the holiday because she was like, I don't go to Erewhon. It's a source of pride. And I was like, Simran, what are you talking about? Don't be insane. It's the best produce in the world. Yes,
Right.
it's $1 million. But when you're in like a crunch, Erewhon is incredible. Plus they have like the best things. I'm like, look, you don't wait in line for the Hailey Bieber smoothie. You know what I mean? We're not that.
Right.
That's not what we're doing.
Right.
But the other stuff, the prepared foods, a real delicious situation. And by the way, those sandwiches, those takeaway, like prepared sandwiches, they're not that much.
Yeah.
They're like $12 or whatever. Which is for a sandwich, not unreasonable. I don't think.
Two things. The first thing is that I kind of admire Erewhon for just being like, listen, yeah, it's expensive. Like the Hailey Bieber's, because people are paying for it. And I kind of just admire that they're like doing their thing, knowing their worth. Like we're always telling.
We love a queen who knows her worth.
Exactly. So I love that. The second thing is I've never been in an Erewhon, nor have I purchased anything from an Erewhon.
But you're more of a recent transplant to Los Angeles. I don't know. It's the greatest grocery store in the world.
I mean,
if you're a person who loves fresh fruits and vegetables and you like are in between a farmer's market vibe, Erewhon is like the greatest place on earth. And really that prepared food section, all of the food to go is like, so it's like next level. It's That's so good.
I think on the one hand, in 5 years, which is the amount of time I've been here in LA, I could have gone into an Erewhon
but
one
also
time.
You have to remember that 5 years, but like 4 of them were the pandemic.
Exactly. And also, I would like to point out that one of my many major privileges is that I have a husband who's a grocer. And so I hardly ever go into any grocery store at all.
Truly.
Unless it's like some specialty item that I need. And even at that,
I know, but like for a person who doesn't eat gluten or whatever, like Erewhon has, this sandwich that I love.
Yeah.
It's like wrapped in a collard. It has like a collard green wrap that's like really good and not like sometimes when you get those sandwiches that are like lettuce wrapped or wrapped in collard greens, they're like, it's like gross. Yeah. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Of course. That's not this. This is so good. Wait, I feel like my headphone is echoey.
Yours is, I think it's because, just FYI, if this sounds weird in any way, it's because we're in the same room.
No. That was better. Whatever you just did.
Okay.
Now it's back. Back. Now it sounds normal.
All right.
So yeah, I thought New Year's was really nice.
It was so nice.
I have to say, I feel like I like really limped to the end of the year, like majorly, you know? And then I got there to New Year's and I had the best night, like seeing friends and talking to people. And honestly, just really hanging out with like Cricket and Emily for a lot of the night. Like, like that was like most of the night was like.
Emily was wearing sparkles, which was so not her, but she was so into it.
Okay. So do you know what happened with the sparkles? You heard the story?
She told me a little bit, but tell our friends.
So I had brought this Doan dress that I have that is like, to be honest, it does look like a dress you'd wear to a funeral. It's like... It's like black lace. It's gorgeous.
Not inappropriate.
No, it's a gorgeous dress. But I was texting with Katie, hostess with the mostess, and we were discussing wardrobe for the party.
Sure.
And I told her what dress I had, and she was like, absolutely not. Busy. No. She's like, you can't, busy, please. Like I can't have you go into into this next year dressing like you're in mourning still. You're not in mourning. I need you in sparkles. I need you sparkly. Get it together. And I was like, I really thought about it and I was like, I think she's right. I think I've been like, I think even my picking that dress as like what I was going to wear for New Year's felt like I was like hedging.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And like I have seen all of the memes and things that are people that are like, no one's saying 2024 is my year. We've learned. And like on the one hand, I get it. And on the other hand, I just started to feel, oh my God, I just sounded like Kate. Oh, I just like channeled her.
Yeah.
On the other hand, that's like exactly what she would say. Piss. I felt like, why the fuck not go into every new year, every new situation with a level of optimism for what it could be and what you want it to be and what you're hoping for it to be. And I know it feels like a small thing, but the way that you dress really projects things. And I just felt like I really vibed on what Katie was saying. So last minute, BB and I went on like a quest for sparkles, but we got sort of waylaid because, you know, kids are here in LA and Birdie wanted to hang out with me and Beebs. And Birdie's idea of shopping is going to the Grove.
Right.
Which is not where I'm going to find an outfit.
The sparkles for you.
It's just not for me.
Yeah.
It's a mall that like, it's just also, malls are weird now, man.
Yeah.
But yeah, so there was nothing there and it basically was like our whole day that we had to shop was there. But then later that afternoon, Emily and I went to like a vintage place and we picked up some like random items that neither one of us ended up wearing to the party. And then it was New Year's Eve day and I went and worked out and then I went to get a facial. So I thought start the year with just a fresh glow.
Just start it right.
And I was like, at least my skin will sparkle. If I have no sparkle, if I'm just like a funeral. But while I was driving to the facial, I saw this like store that had popped up on Melrose. And it was just like literally like cheap sparkles in the window.
No name,
it was just sparkles.
Yeah.
And so after my facial, I like went over there and tried on a ton of things. I mean, and it was like, I'm like, this is a wild journey. Like for whoever wears these clothing options in real life. Wow. But there was this like red sparkly jumpsuit thing.
Yes. Like a
what was a strapless?
A strapless jumpsuit.
Strapless jumpsuit.
With
and
like flared bottoms.
Flared bottoms. And it was like red sparkly pants. And I was like, I didn't love the top of it, but I was like, you know what would be cute if I decide to do this, I could like wear like an oversized concert tee or I could wear my new polar bear sweatshirt from The Great that I've been wearing literally every day. It's my favorite sweatshirt. I feel like it's a part of my identity now. I feel like I'll look back on the end of this year and I'll be like polar bear sweatshirt. But anyway, I just bought it. They weren't expensive. It was like a cheapy place, you know?
Yeah.
So I bought those sparkles. And then I met Emily for lunch and we had a delicious vegan lunch together for New Year's Eve day. And then I was going to pick up Birdie and Bee and their friend Josie. Like these are girls that see each other basically like once a year now.
Yeah.
But like they had a little reunion.
Aww.
So I was going to pick them up at the Grove and drive Bee back to her house and drop Josie off, whatever. And on the way, I saw a dress in the window at Reformation and I was like, ooh, I want to wear that. And it was like light pink velvety and it had sparkles on it. And it felt like a little bit like 20s vibe.
Yeah.
And I was like, you know what? I can fuck with that dress. And so I pulled over and I got that dress. And I was thinking I would return the sparkle jumpsuit. And then Emily Beebe did not like her options for clothing. And I wasn't a fan either. I'm going to say I agreed. I didn't think that she had the look happening for what we were trying to put forth.
Yeah.
And I made her try on the jumpsuit and she was like, this is insane. It looks like a costume. I feel like I'm wearing a costume. And I was like, I feel like if you put on a black sweater over it, it's going to look real good.
Which is what she did.
She did it.
And she put like a chore jacket over it.
She loved it.
Which is very her. It was a good look.
I thought
liked
it was super cute.
And I think like Every outfit is a costume, really.
Well, that's what my point is.
It goes back to like what you were saying about clothes being like a projection. Like, you know, people tell you fake it till you make it. Clothing, I guess, is a part of that. And also what you were saying about like picking a black dress being like the wrong thing, almost like you were casting, you know, like forecasting the way that the night was going to go.
Yes.
And so, and that's like the opposite of fake it till you make it. What is that? That's like, you know, like a self-fulfilling.
It's a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Perhaps.
It could be.
So I just feel like I'm like, yeah, it makes more sense to fake it till you make it every day for the rest of your life, even if you never make it.
Yeah. I remember in the beginning of the pandemics, like first lockdown, when I was like adamant that like every day I got up and I did my workout and then I would like shower and I would put on an outfit, like a full dress and like just a full look to do my day.
Yeah.
And I do feel like that kind of staved off a lot of the feelings that a lot of people I saw were having, you know?
Yeah.
But clothes have always been a place that I like go to fake it till I make it or put on a costume or whatever. And I think it's like, I do encourage it like in people. I think it's important. It's like it's the first thing people see when you're coming at them.
Yeah.
And, you know, you really tell a lot about a person by what they choose to put on their body and like wear in public. Even if like you're not wearing any makeup or your hair's up in a messy thing, like your outfit really does project a vibe, you know? Yeah. I had a thing with Kirsten before the break because, you know, the closet situation in New York is like not great for me.
Right.
And I had some ideas about but we do have a basement, but the basement is like filled with the boxes of Christmas decorations and Halloween decorations, which TBH, like don't need to be
accessible all year.
No, we could put it in like storage.
Yeah.
I could get like a small storage space and put all those boxes there. And then I would have like literally an entire basement. We could put racks and whatever. And so, but we've just been trying, but it takes a while to figure out like how to live. Do you know what I mean?
It takes a while and it also takes maintenance. Like there needs to be like a reassessment all the time.
All the time.
Busy, the thing that you're saying you're going through with your clothes right now is the same thing my family's going through with paper towels. You know what I mean? Like we keep putting paper towels in the garage, which isn't as easily accessible as our pantry and laundry room.
Yeah.
But for some reason, we have like a picnic hamper in one of the shelves of our pantry laundry room. And I know why, because it was a gift from someone nice who I love, and I was very honored to receive it. It does not need, like that can get flip-flopped. Paper towels can come in the house.
100%. In fact, we need to do that today.
Yeah.
Eli, are you listening? Eli, I have a job for you. Okay, so, but Kirsten, before I left, I was just like in a tizzy because I couldn't access my clothes and downstairs, my clothes that are like in storage.
Right.
And like the conventional living in New York wisdom is that like you rotate your closet. Like, so they're like winter and banana.
Right.
But A, global warming. B, so like weather's weird.
Yeah.
You never fucking know. Like it could be like 75 one day in New York. And I'm like, oh, look at all of these cashmere sweaters. Like how do I get just like a cute top?
Yeah. And then you just go nude because you can't get
topless.
Yeah.
But so I've been having issues like accessing the clothes. Plus also I travel so much and I come to LA and I need to whatever.
Yeah. You got to go back and forth.
But it's been really impossible to get into like the clothes. Anyway, so I was saying something to Kirsten and she was like, I mean, do you need all those clothes? And I swear to God, you guys, I literally, if I had been a cartoon character, I think steam would have come out of my ears. I just looked at her and I was like, excuse me? Ma'am? The other night I wore a dress that I've had since I was 14. Yes, I need all of these clothes. Yes. I don't know when I'm going to wear them. I don't know what the occasion's going to be, but I know I have like an encyclopedic knowledge of my clothing.
Sure.
And I like remember things. It's like I do have it is cataloged in my brain like some sort of computer.
Yeah.
And I can like immediately if a situation arises. That was also part of my frustration with the Katie telling me that I needed to wear something sparkly. I like immediately was like, I have 4,000 items.
Right. But you couldn't get to any of them.
No, because they're in New York.
Right.
And it was a real bummer to me.
Right. You know what you need to do? You need to meet, fall in love with, and marry the owner of a dry cleaner who's about to retire. And then you can have that whole pole system, the automatic pole system.
I think you can get that installed in your house, I bet. I bet you I could do it. I bet you I could. I bet you they do that. For sure fucking J-Lo has that.
Just like hit the button and like all of your clothes like rotate around like a carousel.
Here's what I'm going to say. There are services that are incredible and $4 billion.
Yeah.
And they take your clothes and catalog them and dry clean them and press them and make sure they're ready to wear. And then like they have like take pictures of them and then you can decide what you need and you get, but like
that's a big investment.
It's prohibitively expensive.
Yeah.
Like you can't, you have to be a billionaire in order to do that. And, and I think if I were a billionaire, I still don't know if that would be the use of money that I would choose to use my money for.
There is a way.
I would never be a billionaire because it's irresponsible.
Right, because it's irresponsible and we shouldn't have billionaires.
No.
There is a way I think that a human could do it, but it like would require, here's my idea. Here's what you would do is that you would take a picture of everything, somehow caption it, whatever you want to use for your captions.
Mm-hmm. I'm listening.
Save that to your camera roll.
Mm-hmm.
Caption it with what the item is and what bin it would go in. Save that to your camera roll. And then the text of your photos is searchable in your camera roll. And you could at least be like, this dress is in bin 14. But I can see already that that's like...
I don't think that's going to work for me. But here's the other good news, and I want to just say this is amazing.
Yeah.
I did some photo shoots because Mean Girls comes out.
Yes.
End of next week, guys.
Happening.
Do you have your tickets? Please go see it.
See it twice.
Why wouldn't you see it twice?
So you had some photo shoots.
I had some photo shoots, and Tina Turnbow was the photographer.
Yeah.
And the woman who owns Cure Thrift was Liz, was generous enough to, because she's friends with Tina, she like offered her very cool apartment for us to shoot in. So we were using her apartment, but she was there hanging out. And she's rad. And she was like, we were chatting and she's like, I listened to the podcast. Why don't you just do a sale with me? I have a separate space next to Cure Thrift that's empty. I did a pop-up with Amy Sedaris. She's like, just come sell your stuff there. And so I think we're going to I told her I would check in January.
Yeah.
So I think the end of this month in New York, I'm going to do an actual
sale.
Yeah.
Oh, that's exciting. That's so great.
Buy busy. Bye busy.
That's so exciting. Well, I was going to wear to the party. I decided against it because of the coldness. It was going to be cold, but I was going to wear this Anna Sui dress that was very sparkly that I got from my clothing swap. And I haven't had an occasion to wear it yet, but I think that would be so great. I'm relating this to your sale that you're going to have with this person. I'm a huge fan. It's such a good way to refresh our own closet. It's a good way to pass along things that.
Well, I'm going to sell a bunch of shit. I'm not just going to sell clothing. I'm going to sell it all.
Sell everything.
Sell it, baby. I'm ready. Start fresh.
I think that's so good.
It's not even about starting fresh. It's just like Mark and I literally always had too much shit.
Yes.
Like always.
Yeah.
Like because when we got together and got married, we both had 2 houses full of shit.
Right. You
which is
combined
why
your stuff.
at our surprise wedding, we said to people,
Take an end table.
please take a mixer. No, but we did say to people, like, please do not send gifts. Please, if you would like to make a donation in our names, we would be honored.
Right.
Feel no pressure.
Right.
And because I just was like, I can't. We don't
Yeah.
need anything else.
Yeah.
In this.
Yeah.
In our big LA home.
Right. Right.
And then now most of it's just in storage. So he and I agreed we're going to go to the storage place.
Yeah.
We're going to like go through stuff.
Oh, good.
Pull a bunch of stuff to sell.
Yeah.
It's like also hard though, because yes, obviously we separated. So then you do have separate places.
Yeah.
So then it's like, well, wait, we do need 2 mixers.
Yeah. You'll
Yeah.
figure it out,
But
though.
we'll figure it out.
as long as
And-
you're talking about it and like putting eyes on everything.
But also what's insane is that like when we moved to New York before we sold the house and before
Right.
our stuff got there,
Right.
like for instance, it was like getting to be Christmas or whatever, and the house we were staying in didn't have a mixer. So I just had to buy another fucking mixer.
Oh my
Guys, there are
gosh.
so many. Oh, what I'm trying to tell you is
So many mixers.
at the Buy Busy sale, there's probably going to be a mixer. There probably.
Also, FYI, you could have just borrowed my mixer. I would have loaned you a mixer.
You're going to ship it from.
Oh, I thought you meant when you were here in LA, you bought
No,
another.
no,
Oh,
I
okay,
didn't know.
okay.
When I
Oh,
was here in
good.
LA, I brought the
You
air
bought the
fryer.
air fryer.
But I bought that at the Bed Bath & Beyond going out of business sale.
Right.
So it was a real
Right, it
bargain.
was a
and then
bargain.
Emily Beebe took it.
I know. She told
And
me
she
she
loves that.
She loved that air fryer. Wait, did I ever tell you about when, like, my wedding registry when Matt and I got married?
No.
Speaking of Bed Bath & Beyond, when Matt
R.I.P.
When Matt and I got married, we had already been living together for like 7 years. That's what inspired us to like set a date, because we were like, we're on the verge of becoming common law spouses. And it's pathetic that like we haven't even gotten married. So we set a date for our wedding, and I registered at Bed Bath & Beyond because, well, first of all, I was working for Rosie at the time, and her manager's wife, her manager, Bernie Young, his wife, Carol, who I loved, was like, girl, have you ever heard of Tiffany and Company? And I was like, yeah. And she was like, that's where your gift will be coming from. I'm not buying you a wedding gift to commemorate your marriage from Bed Bath & Beyond. And
Ma'am.
because she was so fancy. It was so funny. And I was like, I really appreciate that. I just registered at Bed Bath & Beyond because like a lot of my family isn't fancy, and I want them to be able to get me like a bath towel or whatever. But the thing is, I registered at Bed Bath & Beyond for whatever amount of gifts. And then I went to like check on the registry or like add something to the registry, and everything had been bought. And I was like, oh my God, that's insane. Like I literally just registered. And then it all came to my office because Rosie had bought it all. She bought all the gifts on my registry from Bed Bath & Beyond and had them sent to the office, which I was like, that's so nice. And I didn't say anything. So then I registered for a bunch of other like small towels and stuff. And then she bought all that. And then I had to finally go to her and be like, Rosie, I love you so much. This is so nice. Please stop buying what I'm just registering for things at Bed Bath & Beyond. So like my aunt has something to send me.
Well, here's what I think. If anybody's listening and they decide that they need a registry for whatever, for your graduation, for a marriage, for whatever, I always say you got to go 2 places. You got to go high-low.
Yeah.
You have to go a BBB, which doesn't exist anymore.
Target.
RIP. You got to go to Targs or Walmart or
Yeah.
Costco.
Yeah.
And then do a Tiffany or do a Cristobal or whatever. I don't even know what the fancy places are.
I don't even know anymore.
Yeah, like whatever, like a fancy place or a
Yeah.
Macy's or like a big department store that has
Yeah.
like China.
Yeah.
Whatever. I don't
will
know.
say that we got 3 gifts from Tiffany and Company when we married. They
I
were
love that you're saying Tiffany and Company.
Tiffany
this
and
is like
Company.
how when I say hands-free headset, people make fun of me.
We got 3 gifts from Tiffany, and one was a set of like really heavy crystal. They were all crystal gifts, which I think is very sweet and it's very commemorative, but you don't use them every day. One was crystal like beer mugs, which I have to say the guys do use them.
That's kind of cool.
One was something else that I can't even remember because we immediately put it away for safekeeping and it's probably in my pantry and probably should go in the garage. But the third thing was a crystal bowl, which I did kind of love. And I don't know, I can't remember who in my family was trying to move it from a cabinet and dropped it and it shattered into a million pieces, which I felt bad about for 1 second. But can I also say that I was so glad that I saw the shattering of it because the way it shattered was so cool and amazing. It like immediately broke into these like square chunks that, I mean, I can't even describe it and trying to describe it, but it was like the smashing of it was very spectacular. And if I can't have the beautiful crystal bowl, and I'm very sorry that it's gone, I was glad that I actually saw the smashing of it.
Okay. I got one gift from Tiffany and Company from somebody who did not listen to my request
For no gifts.
No gifts, and instead donation to a charity. And it was like this gigantic, weird crystal bowl thing.
Yeah.
That I was like, I still to this day, I think it's in storage. It's from Tiffany and Company. And to this day, I'm like, what is this? What is this for? What is it, a punch bowl? Do I put fruit in it? And whose home does this belong in? It is a giant, it's like a crystal cut. Like, it's like, it really was confusing to me.
Here's my 2 suggestions.
I mean, it's going to go to the sale maybe.
Maybe in the sale. Also, a bowl like that is lovely to put vintage Christmas ornaments in, ones that are too precious to go on your tree because you can see through them and it like refracts everything. And then my third option is like smash it and watch it smash.
Oh, that seems insane.
It's a once in a lifetime. Yeah, I wouldn't, don't intentionally smash your crystal bowl.
I don't think I'm going to do that,
but maybe sell it.
But maybe sell it.
Or maybe keep it. Maybe it's you now. Maybe you'll look at it in storage and be like, holy shit, I love this now. I didn't have any use for it before, but the me I am now loves it.
Listen. You're right. I should do that. Maybe I'll do that.
Who knows?
I don't know.
Who knows?
I don't know. Or maybe it'll just end up in the sale.
Yeah.
Or maybe you're right. Maybe I'll find some like weird, funky things to put in it.
Who knows? But
it also just, it was just never my vibe.
Yeah. But your
know.
vibe has probably changed some.
Has it?
I don't
know.
mean, probably.
Yeah, a little, maybe.
Mine has changed tremendously since the time that I got married.
Yeah, I guess that's true. I mean, I was a child.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's true. I was a child.
Oh my gosh.
I am no longer a child.
Well, I'm excited for your sale. That's exciting.
I know. And I'll just have to figure out.
I'm going to check in with you a lot on it to see like what your progress is.
Well, I want to get through the Mean Girls press,
of course,
in these next 2 weeks. I want to make sure I get all my work done, get Birdie back to school.
Yeah.
And I want to like get all that settled. And then Mark and I must go together to
go through your storage.
To go through the storage. Yes, exactly. Ooh, you know what? Sometimes I am just like, what am I doing with my day? What am I doing with my life? And I'm starving. And it's 5 p.m. And I need a little snack because my dinner is not till 8. And that's when I'm really grateful for the chomps in my purse because I love that little meat stick. I love the flavors. I love the variety. And I love that Chomps makes snacking simple because their tasty meat sticks are packed with flavor, only the best real ingredients without any unhealthy additives, 0 grams of sugar, low carb, keto friendly, allergy friendly. They don't contain any fillers. Chomps are simply made with all natural ingredients that you can feel great about. Guys, I highly recommend Chomps if you're like on a new kick for the new year. Get it, because here's what derails you from eating well and like putting good things in your body when you get to the point where you're like too hungry and you can't do it. And that's why a Chomps in your bag, in your purse, in a backpack, it's going to be the thing that saves you. Right now, Chomps is offering our listeners 20% off your first order and free shipping when you go to chomps.com/best. Go to chomps.com/best to see all the delicious flavors and get 20% off your first order and free shipping. That's Chomps, CHOMPS.com/best. Don't forget to use our link so they know that we sent you because we love them. Oh, it's a new year. I know that we're all really thinking about eating a little bit better. I know that we're thinking about wanting to do a little bit better. I know that I am, at least. I can speak for myself. Here's what I'm going to say. Hungry Root makes it easier for everybody, but especially for me, to eat healthy. Because they support whatever your like dietary goals are, restrictions, non-restrictions, whatever. If it's like gluten-free or vegan and vegetarian, I'm personally eating more plant-based, guys. That's my vibe right now for the new year. Low carb. Some people like low carb. Some people need low carb. Caissie's one of them. Dairy-free. I don't know. I don't know your lifestyle, but I know that Hungry Root can support it. And it saves money. It reduces food waste. It saves time. And you know how much I hate grocery shopping in New York. I hate it so much. We talked so much about grocery shopping on the podcast today. I find it to be in New York untenable. But that is why Hungry Root has been so easy for me to get fresh, high quality food delivered to my door. Healthy groceries, simple recipes, all in one place. High quality meat and seafood, pantry staples, healthy snacks, sweets even. Sweets. It goes beyond your weekly grocery haul. Thousands of easy recipes that actually put your groceries to good use so that they don't get forgotten about and go bad, because we're trying to eliminate food waste as well, guys. Important things to set this new year off right. So spend less time meal planning and shopping and cooking and more time enjoying healthy food that you're actually going to love with Hungry Root. Right now, Hungry Root is offering Busy Phillips is doing your best listeners 40% off your first delivery and free veggies for life. Come on. Just go to hungryroot.com/busy to get 40% off your first delivery and get your free veggies. That's hungryroot.com/busy. Don't forget to use our link so they know that we sent you.
So, I'm very excited about our guest today. Oh, there she is.
There she is.
Hi.
Hi. Busy. How's your daughter?
She's doing really well. We have we got her into a great doctor in New York, and they have her on anti-seizure meds, and so it's been at least 3 weeks now that she's been on the medication. And so she has had no bad side effects from it, knock wood, has been responding really well to the medication. And then she has to do the 48-hour EEG, which is she's really not looking forward to. But her MRI was good because it showed that there was no scarring in her brain, and it showed that she doesn't have a tumor or any kind of mass or anything. So it's really just epilepsy, I guess.
Yeah.
And we're just partial photo partial photo something. I don't know.
Okay.
I should learn these things. I should learn so I can speak about it.
It's hard to remember. I mean, honestly, like all those neurological terms are really hard to remember, even if it's like your own kid.
Yeah.
I mean, which
Yes.
happened
Also
to,
also have gone through.
Yeah.
It's a lot. I really hope she continues to heal. I'm so sorry.
I know.
It's a lot for her.
She's doing great. And she's going to go back to school. She's going back to her boarding school in Sweden.
Wow.
And her doctor is on, like, thinks it's going to be totally fine. And like, we just have to trust.
Yeah.
We have to have faith,
Yeah.
you know?
I really hope she continues to heal.
Yeah.
And you've moved through it so gracefully. It's pretty remarkable. But in the midst of all of this, Busy has been like just working to help me with this launch in ways that are astonishing. I mean, I can't believe you've been holding all of this at the same time. So
That's
thank
so
you.
nice.
Well, I like to, I like to help out, but I feel strongly and I love the book. Okay, let's start.
Yeah, let's introduce.
Get into, but wait, actually, is Rabbi Sharon the only person who's ever been on our podcast twice?
She is not the only person who's ever been on our podcast.
Who else?
Twice.
Who else?
I believe Ashley Nicole Black has
Okay.
been on 2 times.
It's a very
small club that you're a member of, Rabbi Sharon, the most intimate of clubs.
It is the most
I am
intimate.
so honored.
A 2-timers club.
A 2-timers club, but we're so honored and so happy to have you here to talk about your book that is almost in the world.
It's coming out.
Yeah. We're right on the cusp.
What's the exact date that it's coming out so people can pre-order it?
January 9th.
January
Very
9th.
soon.
Okay,
Yes.
very soon.
very soon, and it's called The Amen Effect.
Right. Ancient wisdom to mend our broken hearts and world.
Feels a little bit like timely.
Very timely.
Yeah. It's funny. I wrote the book in a different world. I mean, I closed the manuscript over a year ago, and I went to do the audio recording in November, and I was a little trepidatious because I hadn't really read the whole manuscript again since I closed it, and not
Right.
in full. And so I was a little worried. Maybe it feels like it no longer matters. And as I was reading it in the sound booth, I realized, oh my God, I didn't even know it at the time, but I was writing for this world, not the world that we came from. And so it's kind of more timely now, both personally and I think collectively than it even was in the way that I initially intended it. So I couldn't have planned the timing, but I feel like we desperately need these ideas front and center now. And they're very old ideas. So I don't know, I shouldn't have been surprised by it. The whole idea of gleaning from ancient wisdom some meaning for our time is that, these things have stood the test of time. These ideas that were written down 1800 or 2000 years ago, the reason that they've been preserved over time is because there's still something for them to say, even in the circumstances that we're living through now.
I mean, well, I found it to be, Caissie and I both have, in 2023, both experienced deep grief and loss. And in the book, you talk, right in an early part of the book, you talk about this idea of when you go to, is it like the holy place, and like you walk in one direction, but if you're grieving, you walk the opposite
Yes.
direction, and everybody that passes you acknowledges your grief. And I've thought a lot about, oh no, I'm going to cry, but I've thought a lot about you and me continuing to do this podcast, like through the loss of your mother, through my best friend's cancer treatment and losing her, and how we've been walking the opposite direction.
Yes.
And how important it is for us to allow others to be a witness to our grief,
Yeah.
but also for others to know that it's okay to have other people see you through those moments. It's the only way to get through.
Yes. Yeah. First of all, I'm so sorry for both of your losses. And my father also died just a couple months ago. And so I'm also now a mourner this year. And so we're all in this mourner space together in some ways. I mean, the reason that this particular ritual has been the heart of my my rabbinate and my faith and really my experience with the world and building community is because it's such a profound psychological and spiritual insight. So the ritual, and it comes from a Mishnah, which is an ancient Jewish code of law codified around 220 CE, so really 1800 years ago. And it explains the ritual of the pilgrimage festival when people used to come up to Jerusalem, and they would come from all around the land, and they would ascend to Jerusalem and then ascend to the steps on the Temple Mount. And they would go through this arch entryway, and hundreds of thousands of people at once would turn to the right and circle around the perimeter of the courtyard. And then they would exit essentially the same place that they had entered, with the exception, as you said, of somebody whose heart is broken. And that person would still enter, but they would turn to the left instead. And that means that they are passing hundreds of thousands of people. And every person who passes them has to stop and ask this very simple phrase, Malach, what happened to you? And the person would answer saying, my heart is broken because my mother just died, or my father just died, or my best friend's in cancer treatment, or I'm worried about my child. And then the people who are okay that day would have to give a blessing and then go on their way. And the reason that the ritual struck me as so profound is because it's the insight in this is really rooted. And now we understand psychology. We understand the nature, what happens to people when they're in collective spaces. We understand how sorrow and grief often cause us to retreat from the world, when what we really need is to step into community instead of stepping away from it. And we also know how destabilizing our sorrow is to other people who might be doing fine in that moment. And the last thing in the world they want to do is look at somebody who's brokenhearted and engage their pain because they're okay today. And yet the ritual says, actually, you can't retreat when you're hurting. You have to step closer, and you can't retreat from people who are hurting. You have to step closer. And so on both sides, both the mourner and the community, the rule is turn toward each other instead of turning away. And that feels to me like the most important message of our time. And I felt it. I said, as I said to you when we started talking, I wrote the book for a different world. And I wrote it not as a mourner, and now I'm reading it as a mourner. I wrote it as a caregiver, really, as somebody who's my whole life entered the sacred, entered every space and sort of turned to the right. And I'm always looking to think, how can I help here? And in what way can I offer my presence, my love, my support, my consolation? And then all of a sudden, with my father's death, I'm the one who has hundreds of people coming into the house saying, tell me stories about your father, and how can I help feed you and make sure that you're eating, and all the things that we need done for us when we're grieving. And I do think that it's saying that the obligation, it rests on both sides, that it takes a lot of courage when you're okay to confront someone else's sorrow and broken heart because of how vulnerable it makes us feel. And it takes a lot of courage when we're hurting to be willing to show up and go on your, do your podcast and speak about your grief and share your sorrow and be willing to say out loud, my heart is broken right now, because you also need to be held in those moments. And people are learning from the way that you're walking through sorrow, and it's helping them get in touch with the way that they too can walk through those times of incredible pain and hardship.
Yeah. I think that that's one of the things that's so resonant in the book. I also feel, Sharon, well, first of all, I can't wait for the audio book, because I listen to your sermons and I find a lot of comfort from your sermons, as so many of my friends do. Whether or not you're Jewish or you have religion in your life. I know I've posted them before, and I feel like, especially when you were a guest on our podcast the last time, I'm sure a lot of our listeners have checked out your sermons. But I do feel like what's so great about this book is that the way that I've been reading it over the last few weeks that I've had it is like picking it up and reading a chapter at a time and taking that piece and that lesson and then putting it down and then coming back to it. And I'm curious if that was sort of a way that you were thinking about it, or how you conceptualized what it was that you wanted to do when you decided to write a book.
That's interesting. I mean, I've heard different things from the few people who've read the book so far, the advanced readers. And I mean, I know one, I gave the book to one reader. I handed it to her son and said, give this to your mother. And the son just started reading it and then basically sat down on the couch for the next 6 hours, like throughout the entire night, and read the whole book in one sitting.
Wow.
And he's a teenager, and he wrote me this beautiful, he said, I didn't give it to my mom. I read it myself first. And he said it actually helped him understand grief and loss and love. And also he's Jewish. And he said, he understood his relationship with Judaism in a way that he never had thought about in any religion before in this way. So some people are encountering the book that way. And I think some people are also reading it in sort of snippets. And so the book is designed around this big core idea that in this time of isolation, social alienation, and loneliness, we must find our way to one another in sorrow, in celebration, and in solidarity. And that Mishnah that we were just talking about with this ancient temple ritual is really at the heart and comes up in every single chapter. And yet the chapters do sort of stand alone. I'm looking at all different aspects of the way that we give and receive love in the hardest moments. And they do stand alone. And so I envisioned it kind of as it's a series of small sermons that make up a super sermon in a way.
Yeah.
And so it could be devoured as like just the way this, teenager read it, or it could be read like, I need a little bit of this and a little bit of this. And I have a couple of my advanced readers were people who've gone through traumatic loss. And they said they immediately started with the chapter on grieve and live, and which chapter 5, that they needed to go right to the heart of it. And, so I think it could be engaged either way, and it could be engaged from either direction, either the caregiver side or the people who are hurting side. And the one thing that I was really careful to pay attention to as I was writing was there's an arc to the book from the most intimate, personal, both pain and also promise, like what we can do with this feeling of helplessness that we so often have when we're experiencing loss or when people around us are. So it moves from the very personal to the kind of collective and relational to the global. And so the last chapter, chapter 8, is really about how do we translate these learnings about connection and community and solidarity to a very broken society where we don't even know how to look at each other, listen to each other, engage one another, where we have no curiosity about one another anymore. And it's leading to so much pain and heartache. So can we apply the same lessons from the interpersonal and the personal to the global? And it's my sincerest belief that we can, and that we must actually. And this is really, I think I mentioned somewhere in the book that when I was I had only a year and a half left of rabbinical school. It's a 6-year program. And I had this theological crisis, and I decided I was going to quit school and I was going to, follow a different path. And I had to, I wanted to do human rights work, global human rights work. And I ended up having this mentor who was like, no, you have to do both. You have to be a rabbi who cares about the world, because the marriage of these worlds is where your rabbinate will stand. And so I started doing this master's program for the last year. While I was in rabbinical school, I did a master's program at the School of International and Public Affairs at Columbia. And what I found was so just shocking to me. Everything I was learning in international conflict resolution mirrored what I was learning in my pastoral care classes. And so when we're learning about how to engage a couple that's struggling, or how to help a parent with a child who's struggling, those lessons can then be applied to post-conflict regions where child soldiers are coming home after committing atrocities and need to be reintegrated into their families, or where previously warring parties need to learn how to rebuild a society. It's the same principles. And so I believe that they can be applied in both the most local and personal way, and also the most global ways, because they're rooted in the same principles that every single person has dignity and deserves to and needs to be seen and to be honored for their pain and for their triumphs in the world. And that once we see each other, we can collectively move toward healing.
It makes so much sense to me, Rabbi Sharon, that you were saying that you wrote this book in a different world, and that, not only did your personal world change, but also the world at large change. And you found your book to be so timely still, because all of the things that you're talking about they seem so simple, but they really are the key to everything. And as you were saying, like this epidemic of loneliness and alienation, like I feel like alienation is always like the logical next step of a type of loneliness. So we're just starting to talk about this national and international epidemic of loneliness that we're facing.
Right. But then you also, on top of it, like you become overwhelmed by the grief of war being perpetrated on innocents and
that
and atrocities, like
alienation.
Of course.
Yeah.
Right. But you also then feel, I mean, I know at least I have felt, especially since October 7th with everything, with Israel and Gaza, like totally helpless.
Yeah.
Like, what can I do?
Right. Well, the opposite of alienation, I guess, is humanization, which that sounds to me like exactly what you're saying. Like everything you're talking about is making everything more human and acknowledging our own humanity and the humanity of others. And so that's why I think it's such an important discussion to have, is such an important resource for people to have.
Bass, I love you so much, bass. Really love my bass. Actually, today when Caissie came over to do the podcast, she was carrying her little bass tote. Because, listen, we've all been there. You try to fit everything that you think you might need for a trip in, only to end up with a suitcase bursting at the seams. Here's the deal. With bass, there is room for everything. 15 pairs of underwear for a weekend trip. That sounds like me. This feels like an attack, a personal attack, but it's not, because with bass, it's not a problem. You don't have to decide between a couple pairs of shoes. You can bring all the shoes. Bring all the shoes. I'm just obsessed. Guys, it's the best luggage. It really is. They've thought of everything. Bass knows what you want in a piece of luggage. 360-degree gliding, wheels, a cushioned handle, built-in weight indicator. Do you know how much that has saved my life? Washable bags for your dirty clothes. And all the interior pockets you need to keep organized. Base luggage comes in multiple sizes and colors. For shorter trips, I'm obsessed with that weekender bag. Also, I just use the weekender bag as my carry-on. That's a fact. Right now, Base is offering our listeners 15% off your first purchase by visiting basetravel.com/best. Go to basetravel.com/best to get 15% off your first purchase. You're not going to regret it. That's BEIS travel.com/best. My cats legitimately fight over our next sponsor, Smalls. The truth of the matter is Gina gets a lot of love, a lot of attention, and we love our Jeannie Jeans. But I love those kitties. I really do. I love my cats. Rosie and Gildo are just my little buddies, and they're so sweet. If you're a listener of the pod, I think I've mentioned it before, my cats cannot live without their Smalls. Smalls cat food is a protein-packed recipe made with preservative-free ingredients that you'd find in your fridge. It's delivered right to my door, which I love. Honestly, I feel better knowing that my cats are eating real food and not like weird, bad, gross kibble. Smalls was started back in 2017 by a couple guys just making cat food at home, just cooking up some homemade cat food in small batches for their friends. And a few short years later, they're serving millions of meals to cats around the world, including my guys, Rosie and Gildo. After making the switch to Smalls, 90% of cat owners report overall health improvements. It's a big deal. The team at Smalls is so confident that your kitty is going to love their product that you can try it risk-free, which is what I did, literally. And that they will refund you if your cat won't eat their food. And I know, as a cat owner, can't believe Rosie and Gilda are like almost 8 years old, that, cats can be picky, but my cats are so obsessed with Smalls. Guys, It's 2024. Are you feeding your cat kibble still? No. Head to smalls.com/best and use our promo code BEST at checkout for 50% off your first order plus free shipping. That's insane. It's the best offer you're going to find anywhere. But you have to use my code. Please use the code BEST for 50% off your first order. One last time. That's promo code BEST for 50% off your first order plus free shipping. I promise you, your kitties are going to love Smalls. Rabbi Sharon, I wanted to ask you about, obviously, like the ongoing war in Israel and Gaza, because you have spoken so beautifully in Temple and posted to Ikar's site. And what was the thing that you said? Like, let's not, like, our hearts are broken. Let's not lose our minds too, or something like that. Do you remember?
So let's not lose our damn minds.
Let's not lose our damn minds. But
Right.
it's been a period of time that is just overwhelming with grief for so many. And when you talk about being a witness and that we must be a witness, I do find, even for myself at times, especially in the last few months, feeling, well, I actually am not prepared to be this much of a witness for this much grief and war and atrocity. And I'm curious how you feel we all can continue to center humanity and be a witness, and also be able to maintain some semblance of not having it overwhelm and destroy us.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. It's a really good question. I think when you're asking this, I'm remembering this quote that I think came from Michael Moore in 2016, where he said, I'm reminded of middle school choir, where we were learning how to hold one solid note for a really long time. And it's never one person who holds the note consistently, but one person starts and then the next, it overlaps with the next and then the next. So the first person can take a breath and it sounds like one continuous note, but actually it's a layering of voices. And so I think about that a lot, that no one of us can hold all of this all the time. It is too much. It's too much sorrow. It's too much pain. And there's a guilt that comes with stepping away from the depth of the sorrow. But actually, we need to step away from the depth of the sorrow to regain our breath and to regain our own perspective and our humanity. Even the framework that guides my life is the framework of Shabbat, which comes from it's the first thing in the book of Genesis that we're told, 6 days a week, do all of your work. And on the seventh day, take a break and rest and breathe. And the idea is, if you don't step out of the world as it is and dream again about the world as it could be, then you're just trampled by the reality of the world. And so I think there's something very healthy about creating either a rhythm in time like Shabbat, or a rhythm in partnership with other people like Michael Moore's talking about, so that we know that it's okay to step out and breathe and then come back in. Because in the flood of sorrow right now, you have to imagine that. So now imagine you enter that temple courtyard and you turn to the right with the masses of people. But instead of encountering one person who lost their parent, and then another person who's worried about their kid, and then a few minutes later, another, instead you're encountering thousands of people who are in pain. At some point you say, I'm just not going to the temple courtyard today. There's too much pain there. Right. And so we want people to not opt out of giving a damn. And the way to do that is to know and trust that there's a rhythm to your engagement, and that you can take a break from social media, take a break from, maybe from all news for 1 day a week. My practice is I go offline entirely on Shabbat. So literally nothing will make me open my phone on Shabbat. And I've gone almost entirely off of social media because it was too much agony, and not in a way that's an invitation to feel more deeply, but in a way that I felt was shutting me off from feeling more deeply, because it's designed to agitate So it's actually doing damage to our hearts, the way that we're encountering the news right now. And so the news and these perspectives. And so what I want to do is create spaces and seek out spaces where we can actually engage more quietly and more humanly, and where we can say, tell me about where your heart is right now. Tell me about the pain that you're experiencing, from the sense of helplessness that you have with regards to this conflict or any conflict. And so asking a question from a place of legitimate curiosity of an actual human is different from entering the battlefield of social media and saying, like, I really want to be sensitive and I want to learn more and I want to be in touch with the sorrow, but it's almost too much noise that it's forcing us to shut down our hearts entirely. And I think it's causing a real vicarious trauma right now. I mean, even for people who don't have immediate family members in Israel or in Gaza or in the West Bank, even for people who might have never been to the region, don't know much about, we're traumatized by the news. And so from a place of trauma, it's very difficult to access curiosity and compassion and empathy from a place of trauma. So what we have to do is like protect ourselves a little bit and move away from the kind of battlefield of ideas into the space of just human encounter. Who can we talk to whose views are a little bit different from ours, who we can say, I can see that you're in a place of deep sorrow. Help me understand a little bit more what you're feeling right now and how I can be a support to you through this really difficult time. Mm-hmm. Not because you're trying to beat me down because your idea is more right than mine. Because I will say in this conflict, there are a lot of people who are really good, decent people who are on opposite sides of this divide. And that doesn't usually happen. I mean, often in the major conflicts of our, in American politics or the major wars, you can sort of trust like, oh, all the good, the good, righteous, justice driven people who care about the world. We all see it the same way. And in this conflict, that's not true. So can we go to somebody who normally we see the world in similar ways, but in this conflict, we really are seeing it differently, and say, let's have a cup of coffee. Can we talk about this? Because I'm heartbroken and you're heartbroken. And I don't want to convince you. I just want to understand you a little bit better. And I think when we move to those more personal encounters, we step out of a kind of learned helplessness and into the space of rehumanizing the other and ourselves.
I think that's incredibly valuable, obviously, in regards to talking about what has happened in Israel and with Gaza and the West Bank in the last couple of months. But I'm also just thinking right now about the new year, and that so many things that I've seen, people are like, well, good luck to you. 2024 is an election year. It's going to be a shit show. And we started talking on the podcast this morning about this new year and about how I had brought a black dress to wear to the party I was going to. And my friend who was the host was like, absolutely not. You're not dressing like you're in mourning anymore, Busy. Like, I need you to enter the new year in sparkles, in color. I need for you. Like and by the way, when I got to the party, there were lots of people in like black dresses or whatever. And she was like, yeah, no, the dress code was just for you. And I was
for them, it's okay.
For them, they can do whatever. But she's like, I needed you to enter. And I was like, that I actually really, I loved it so much. And I took the note and I really thought about it. And I decided to choose to be optimistic heading into this year. And even in the fact that we're heading into this election cycle where there is, of course, this incredible divisiveness. And I feel like what you have just said is so valuable. And that's the piece in American politics and in community that it feels so irreparable in so many ways. And I don't know, how do we find the personal spaces? How do we do it?
Rabbi Sharon said, like, I feel like just as you said it, like it became my word of 2024, rehumanization. But Sharon, do you have, with the lack of like third spaces or, where people gather, how do we sit across from a person who's like, I don't even know, who's so adamant about Who doesn't see us as
who
a full
doesn't
human.
see us as a full human. How do we sit across from those people? Where does that happen? How do we allow for the rehumanization of ourselves and also maybe for others? How do we do it?
So I'm so glad that you wore sparkles to this party. And I love that host is a real friend, because that is clearly what you needed. And so I'm going to answer this in a couple of different ways. First of all, I think that our work is to build third way spaces, that we are living in this time of false binaries. And we actually have to counter that by creating the spaces ourselves for the kinds of conversations that we want to be part of. Instead of like, this is the learned helplessness thing. Like, what can we do? Literally every space is toxic. Anything I do is going to, it's going to turn sour. And instead investing in spaces where we can actually engage the way that we want to. So I feel like that, for me, that's really a priority, building those spaces ourselves, like deliberately inviting people to dinner who are going to have the kinds of conversations that we want to have as a response to a world that's full of the kinds of conversations we don't want to have, right? I mean, not every panel needs to look like a panel on cable TV where everybody's screaming all at once. Like, that's a choice. They made a choice to create those spaces. Most of us stopped watching those shows, right? So how do we create the kinds of spaces where people aren't just shouting over each other, but are actually asking questions that's driven more by curiosity than by a kind of assertion that I know what's right and you're wrong and I'm going to have to convince you, or you're shit, you're not worth my time. So the first is creation of third way spaces. The second is, I have been envisioning lately like Venn diagram of human community. And we know that most people have a lot in common with each other. Like, we want to put our kids to bed safely at night. We want to be able to dream of a better world. We want quiet. We want safety. We want stability. We want dignity. We want a just world. We want love. So, but I think when we engage these conversations, we often go not to the overlapping values in this Venn diagram, but we go out to the margins. And we're like, but you said this, and you wrote this, and you posted this. And so we're trying to, get another person who's standing on the margins for their most marginal ideas, instead of starting with, tell me about your kids. Tell me about your kids. And because I think that we're missing each other. We're starting in the most aggressive, most difficult place to find one another, instead of starting where the overlapping values are and building trust with each other and really building relationship and investing in those relationships. The other piece of this is what your friend so wisely, pointed you to, which is, I actually think in times of real heartache and sorrow, we have to choose joy. That joy won't naturally surface for us, but we have to choose joy. And that's what your friend was actually asking you to do. Like, make a decision right now, Busy, as you enter this new year, that joy is going to be at the forefront of your list of priorities. And so in the book, I write about these two stories that are kind of inverted versions of one another, two different responses to this catastrophic moment in ancient Jewish history, this moment of incredible loss and calamity. And one of the stories is that there's this big wedding where, actually, I tell the first story first, because I think chronologically they happen in this order. But after this catastrophic moment, people were just bereft, and they didn't want to drink. They didn't want to eat. They didn't want to gather. They wanted to deny themselves joy because they just felt so crummy about all the horrific loss that had happened. And one of the rabbis was like, well, where do you draw the line? Like, if you're not going to drink wine and you're not going to eat meat and you're not going to eat bread and you're like, you don't want to celebrate, so then why are you even living at all? Instead, he said, you have to live in this world, but always leave a little something out. Like, wear your sparkly gown, but leave off one little bracelet that you would have worn in memory of your friend. Like, just because of my friend's death, I'm not whole. And so I'm going to go out and I'm going to have a great night, but I'm going to remember there's an absence here. And so allow that absence to be present in your life, but not to be the defining course of your life. And then a couple hundred years passed, and there's another story where they're still relating to the same calamitous loss. It's essentially like a post-Holocaust reality for them in contemporary terms. And this time they're at a wedding and it's this big joyous occasion and everybody's like dancing and drinking and, they're having the best time, but it's like too much. It's almost like they forgot that this calamity had occurred. And so one of the rabbis takes this very expensive glass and smashes it to the ground and everyone hears the sound of shattered glass and they stop dancing. And he's like, don't lose yourselves in the joy because there's still loss in this world and don't ever forget it. And I feel like these are two sides of the equation. Like, don't lose yourself in the loss. There's still so much joy in the world. And don't lose yourselves in the joy because there's still so much human heartache and suffering and you can't disconnect from it totally. And so because that would make you, can we say what, I don't know what the technical term for asshole is, but you don't want to totally abandon human suffering and your human community. There's so much pain right now. So go out and party, but leave a little something. And don't forget that the pain is there, but also don't only live in the pain because there's also so much to be joyous about. And I share in this, there are these practices at the end of the book, these 8 spiritual practices, one that correlates with each of the chapters. And in one of them, I talk about a practice that my friend Shifra created after the really terrible death of her beloved partner, Michael. And she realized that what made her fall in love with him was that he lived so joyously in this world. He was always laughing and he loved music and he loved his friends. And then he died and it was such a terrible loss. And she didn't want to only grieve with staying at home and weeping for a year. She wanted to honor his joy by being joyous. And so she literally she created this practice of 18 minutes of joy in which she would set a timer for 18 minutes and force herself to experience joy, even through her broken heart. And she would do anything that would make her feel joy, like eat a chocolate cake or dance alone in her apartment or go for a walk in nature, something that would pull her out of the grief and remind her that the world keeps going and there's still so much beauty and blessing in this world. And I feel like that's what your friend was doing for you that night, saying there is still so much joy here, Busy, and all the sadness and sorrow will persist and all the worry will persist in this world. But there's also a lot of beauty and we have to regain our perspective periodically. And it helps to have good friends who will kind of pull us back from the abyss and remind us of that.
I love that, Rabbi Sharon. What you're talking about right now, I just wanted to point out, well, this is a weird thing to admit, but I wanted to point out how universal it is. The weird thing for me to admit is that there's a thing in pop culture and it comes from Black culture. And I think hip hop music is where I first noticed it, when you see someone saying, we're going to pour one out for someone who's lost, and it's such a phrase that it's almost kind of it's almost like a little bit of a joke sometimes when it's done on a TV show or whatever. It's always made me emotional, which that's the weird thing to admit, is that I always get a little bit choked up even when someone's doing it in a humorous way on a comedy television show. They say they're going to pour one out for someone who's not there. But I think it's the same idea, right? Is that you're sacrificing a mouthful or a bottle full of joy when you're gathered together for this person who's not there. It's a way to remember. So it always makes me choked up, even when I see it on a cartoon or whatever, because it's a very sincere expression of, the bitter and the sweet, you're remembering the loss as you're about to celebrate.
Right. And it gives you permission to still celebrate.
Right. Yes.
Right. Because if you didn't pour one out, or if you didn't, break the glass, which, by the way, so that's the origin of the ritual at Jewish weddings, which now I think people do at lots of weddings, not just Jewish ones, where they break a glass at a wedding ceremony. And that's where it comes from. But the idea is you might say there's so much pain in the world, or there's even so much pain in my own family. There's so much pain in my community. How can I dance tonight at my wedding, at this, how can I experience the joy of this moment? And it's like, you can, and you must experience the joy of this moment, but don't do it with reckless abandon. Pour one out first, break a glass first,
Acknowledge it.
yourself to be reconnected to the broader human struggle, and then experience joy, because we need the joy, because there's no movement for social change that has ever happened without joy, without dance, without music. Like, we can't build a just and loving world if we don't have joy.
Without song.
Song, right. We need those. That's the fuel for the spirit. And so the spirit can't live only in sorrow. Mm-hmm. And I think that's part of the reason, Busy, going back to how you started, that the people who are in grief they still go up to the Temple Mount. They still enter the same space, because when we retreat, when we're in sorrow, we disconnect from the rest of the human community that's not in sorrow in that moment.
Right.
And because there's a cognitive dissonance between my loss and the world being just fine. It's very hard to step back into the world when we've experienced this loss, but we have to. Because the fact is, there are also babies being born, and there's also new love, and there's also someone just finished their dissertation, and someone else passed the bar, and someone else, just got some interest on someone on like a dating app, and like there's all this new newness and possibility and love and hope, and so if we retreat fully, we deny ourselves that beautiful mosaic of life. And so how do we create a kind of gentle re-entry for people who've experienced loss into spaces where you're not going to pretend like you're okay, because you don't walk into that space and turn to the right like everyone else, because that would be a lie. You're not okay. You're grieving, right? You're struggling, you're suffering. So you want to acknowledge that you're not okay, but also still have the benefit of being part of this collective, of this human community. And, I write a lot about this in the book, and we talk a lot about this in our community, but every single week when we come together for Shabbat services, there is loss in the room, and there's new life in the room, and new love, and something to celebrate. And I think if we're really present, if we are aware of one another in every space, at every dinner party, at every New Year's party, at every, in every supermarket aisle, there is love and there is loss all the time. There's sorrow and there's celebration all the time. But we just have to expand our sense of one another so that we can see all of that, because it helps remind us that we're part of this broader human community. And there's a ritual that we do at the end of Shiva, which is the most intense days of mourning after the death of a loved one, when we really stay home for 7 days. People take care of us. They make sure that we eat. They ask us to tell stories, all the things that go on in a house of mourning. But at the end of 7 days, we have to get up and we walk around the block. And that's like a gentle re-entry, because we can't stay forever in the place of only grief. And so go out and see that the world is still alive, and that there's still vitality and vibrancy and meaning in the world. But don't ever forget the grief that you've experienced. So pour one out, break a glass, leave a little patch of the paint in front of your house unpainted, it says. Like, leave off one piece of jewelry, leave one delicacy out of your feast, so that you're aware of the loss, but you're still feasting. You're still building a new home. You're still engaging in, dancing and in falling in love, but you're always aware of what's not there.
God, I love that.
It's beautiful. It's beautiful. I'm so sorry for your loss.
Yeah.
I'm sorry that you're, having to sort of revisit this, as like you said that you wrote this book as a caregiver, and you reread it sort of as a cared for person. But I guess what I'm realizing is, if we do it right, we will all be both of those things over the course of our lives.
Yes.
Well, we must all be both of those things.
Yes.
And also sometimes we have to do it at the same time.
Yes.
right? You have
That's
had
right.
to
And
continue to be a caregiver as well as someone in deep mourning, I imagine.
yeah, this was hard. I mean, I have to say at my father's Shiva, I really struggled. I mean, because it was so counterintuitive for me to be cared for. I kept jumping up. I mean, traditionally the mourners are supposed to just literally stay still. Like,
right.
you
Like just
sit
for
and
people who are
come over
listening
to you.
yeah, I was going to say for people who are listening who aren't Jewish and have never been to a Shiva, like a traditional Shiva, like when you're mourning, somebody else does they bring you food. You don't even go and get your own food. They will bring you food. Someone else answers the door. You don't get up to answer the front door if you're sitting Shiva.
Right.
Like it's all taken care of.
It's sort of, which is to take the burden off of the mourner. Like, you don't need to think about food. We've got this for you. But it also forces the mourner to trust community. Like, I trust that somebody's going to think about dinner for me tonight. And what happens to your heart when you have a broken heart because of a loss, but all of a sudden there's all this love that comes around you and says, trust that you're going to be held with love through this loss. I mean, it's a very powerful response to loss. And in fact, that's why the book is called the Amen effect or the Amen effect, depending on what tradition you come from. But it comes from the traditional mourner's prayer. In the Jewish tradition, is a prayer. It's in ancient Aramaic, and it's a prayer where the mourner basically stands up in community and says, "Yitkadal v'kadash shemei Rabbah." The prayer begins, which means magnified and sanctified be God's name, which is a very kind of alienating theology for a lot of people. But then the community responds saying, Amen. And then the mourner says another line of ancient Aramaic, and the community again says, Amen. And then the mourner says another line, and Amen. And so what I realized over time, pastoring to my community, is that it's not actually about the theology or about the poetry or the ancient biblical references. It's actually about placing a mourner or somebody with a broken heart in the context of community and having them stand up and say, my heart is broken, and having a community say, Amen. And then having them say, I'm so scared. I don't even know what the future will look like. And the community responds, Amen. And then again and again, the community just says, Amen, Amen, Amen. And what happens is it's doing this psychological work on the person who's broken, saying, we see you. We see you. We see you, and we're not running away from you. Like we might be scared by your loss, but we're not going to abandon you. And what a powerful reminder of our humanity in the midst of a time where we feel so broken and lost, and we don't know which way is north. And this group of people is saying, we're right here. We got you. And I mean, this is another piece that I've learned over the years. Like, we think when people we love are hurting, that our job is to pull them out of the pain.
Right.
It's not. Mm-mm. It's just to sit with them in the pain.
Yes.
Until they're ready to come out. And to just say, like, do you want me by your side right now? Because I'm willing to be here with you until you're ready to move. And so it's just a community saying to a person who's hurting, we're right here. We're not going anywhere. And so for me, going back now to like my father's Shiva, for me, it was very hard for me to receive that. Because my muscle memory is all about saying amen, amen, amen. Mm-hmm. Right. And then all these people showed up and they were like trying to say amen to my prayer. And I was like, oh, how'd your mother's surgery go? And, I didn't follow up with you about, that. And it required my husband and my dearest friend, Melissa, literally saying, you need to sit down right now and let people come over to you and just say amen to you. And it's really counterintuitive, but I needed it because I'm always orienting one way. And I needed people I love to say to me, the only reason that this sort of sacred paradigm works, that people go to the right while others go to the left, is because we all know intuitively, as much as we want to deny it, that one day we'll also go to the left. Mm-hmm. And when we do, we're going to be held by a community that's coming from the right. And so that knowledge, like when I'm hurting, I know that I'm going to need you. is what gives me the strength to say, oh, somebody in the community is hurting and I'm busy and I have deadlines and I have work to do and it's hard to get a babysitter, but you know what? I'm going to go because I'm going to also need one day to get that kind of love. And so it's not a quid pro quo. It's about training my heart to what it means to be in sacred relationship. Mm-hmm. And I want people to feel that they're in sacred relationship with me also, so that we can give this gift to one another in our time of greatest need.
It's very interesting. We talked a little bit about it recently. Our friend's father also passed away. And like all I did was make a lasagna. I made a lasagna. Which it wasn't hard at all. The amount of times that my friend's family has thanked me for the lasagna is so much more trouble than it was to make the lasagna in the first place. But what I will say is that it was such a gift to me that they allowed me to do that for them, because it just felt like I was doing something, because nothing I could say or do was going to change the situation at all. But it felt like such a gift to me that when I said, can I at least make a lasagna? They said, sure, bring a lasagna.
No, I know what you're saying, but I also think that it's, I was talking to my friend Kate, who passed away. I was talking to her husband not long ago, and we were talking about how some people do back away. They don't want, it is too hard for them to show up for whatever reason. They can't. And that the real trick of being a person is being able to really show up for others when they're in their, guys, we talk about memes all the time. Yeah. If you can't handle me at my, then you don't get me at my, you know what I mean? Right. Like, that's in a community, in a group of people, like, we have to be able to hold space for those that are hurting deeply. And also, because when you are hurting deeply, I was just thinking of all the things I was grateful for in this past year. And it's all the people that showed up for me in moments where I was like, I don't need anything. I'm fine. I'm also very much a caretaker. Yeah. Rabbi Sharon, but like, I got it. I'm fine. Yeah. But it's the people that are like, okay, but just in case you're not, here I am. Right. I'm going to sit right here and I'll just be right here.
This is why your lasagna is not just a lasagna. It's actually love. Yeah. Your lasagna is a gesture of love in a moment when people need to know that they're loved and cared for. And it's really hard to show up for someone when they're in pain. And there are a lot of good reasons why we don't. It's, as I said earlier, it's really destabilizing, especially traumatic loss, tragic loss. It makes us feel like, oh, that could happen to me. And that's real. I don't want to diminish that. I mean, that's real. And that causes a lot of people to stay away. Also, a lot of people feel like, I don't know if I'm close enough to this person. Right, I don't want to be an imposition. I don't want it to be inappropriate. And so we have good reasons why we stay away, but none of them are good enough to actually stay away.
No. You tell a story in your book about one of your mentors having a loss, and you thinking to yourself, like, I wrote a note and I don't need to, that's good because that person, I'm not that close. Like that person has a ton of people around them. Mm-hmm. And then they called you out on it.
He was so hurt by me. And I mean, and so it's my rabbi, Marcelo Brownstein, who's a beautiful, brilliant man. And his mother died and he was in New York and I was in LA, and I wrote this lovely letter. But I didn't call him. I mean, I didn't fly in and I didn't call him. And next time I saw him, he said, you really let me down. I really needed you and you weren't there. And I was so hurt. And of course, immediately I was like defensive and upset. Like, well, why didn't you ask me if you need, and also, but I thought, oh my God, what a gift he just gave me. And I will never make that mistake again. I won't. And I have to say that during my own Shiva for my father, our friend Greg flew in from New York City and was on the ground for 6 hours to come to Shiva. He was like, I just needed to be with you guys. And I will never forget that for the rest of my life. Like, I mean, it was, okay, like it, not everyone can do that all the
For
time.
sure,
And I
of
can't go
course.
to every funeral and I can't go to every Shiva, but the gesture is so powerful because what he's saying is like, you mean something to me. And as I share in the book, my grandma's rule was like, you just show up for the simcha, like you show up for the joy. And because she always used to say, like, if you would go to the funeral, go to the bar mitzvah, go to the wedding. If God forbid there was a horrible tragedy and your friend died instead of got married, you'd go. So go now. And then I realized, and that's such a good rule. And I realized we can't even take for granted that we would show up for the funeral part. We have to show up for both. And so how do you orient your life around the rule, my grandma's rule, about just err on the side of presence? And sometimes someone will say, you know what, I have too many lasagnas in my fridge right now. I actually can't take anymore.
Right.
And that's okay. So then you say, okay, I'll bring it over in a month when most people have started to, not bring food anymore. I'll be there in a month. Or as my sister-in-law, Paulette, says, I mean, she's so good at this. Like I've learned this from her. She writes, she doesn't say, let me know if there's any way I can help. She writes, I'm in Trader Joe's. What do you want me to pick up for you?
Yeah.
Or she'll say, I picked up these 3 things for you and left them out front. And she doesn't even knock on the door often, because often when we're in that space, like we don't want to deal with another person who, who feels like they need to be present for us. Right. So giving people the space to step into the relationship when they want to, but erring on the side of showing up. And I have to say, I also share this little vignette in the book, I think in the spiritual practice section, about an article I read that was very impactful years ago about an author who said her father's rule was go to the funeral. You just always go to the funeral. And so then her father died from cancer and it was terrible. And she said, if I'm remembering this correctly, it's like a weekday afternoon and she's in the front row of the church and she turns around and she sees a church full of people who just went to the funeral. And it just, for her, it was this transformative thing. And I've always thought about that as a pastor, as a rabbi, and I've taught that. And then at my father's funeral, which was way the hell out in, far away, Simi Valley, it was like 107 degrees out. I mean, it was a beast. And I'm not cognizant of anything that happened during this service in the chapel. It was just like too overwhelming and emotional. And we were exhausted. And it had been this incredibly beautiful, very hard last week, 2 weeks. And then I look at some point at the burial, the family comes up first and we laid soil on the coffin. And then the whole community lines up. And this is the way that Jewish burials work. Like everybody comes forward and places earth on the coffin. And I encourage people to do it with their own hands, if they, even better than using a shovel. Like it's just it's the most powerful thing that we can give each other, this gift of literally burying each other's loved ones, burying each other with our bare hands. And so it was very hot out. And usually the immediate family moves under this little tent that's like 20 or 30 feet away. But my mom, she just didn't want to move away from my father. Like she didn't want to, she didn't want to be away from him. So she's like, I'm not leaving. And someone grabbed a chair and we set it up right next to the graveside for her. And someone was holding an umbrella over her the entire time to block the sun. But then all the kids and grandkids basically sat around the graveside for the duration of the burial. And as we did, I looked up and I saw this line of people, like literally hundreds of people who dragged themselves out to this like far valley in 107 degree heat. And they were burying my father with their bare hands. And I just I could not believe what it felt like to be the recipient of that kind of love. And in that moment, I didn't have the wherewithal to be like, as I said during Shiva, I'm like, what's going on with your family and how are you? But in that moment, I was collapsed on the ground, just overwhelmed by the love. And I feel like that is the sacred gift of your lasagna. Like that's what you did. You basically said like, that's why they're writing you so many thank you notes and calling and bringing it up again and again. And that's why I will never forget my friend Greg flying in for the Shiva. Like it just matters that people are there to hold us in this moment when we're upside down because our loved one is in the ground and everything's wrong about the world except for this. Like there's still love in the world and we can actually give that gift to each other.
And we have to.
And we have to find a way to do it every day. And I think what you said about your sister-in-law is so important that sometimes people, they can't even begin to access what they would need or want. And it's not even, the thing isn't even important.
Well, I was saying to you know this, but my friend Robin, who in New York it was right after Kate had passed away, after Shiva, after her funeral, the funeral in Shiva.
Yeah.
And my friend Robin, a couple weeks later, was like, "Hey, I booked a sauna and a cold plunge room at this place not far from you in in New York. So it's at 1 p.m. tomorrow. Can you make it with me?" I was like, I can actually. That's great. Yeah, I'll see you there.
Yeah.
And it's like that kind of showing up for people sometimes that we like that's the intuitive version of like, hey, I'm at Trader Joe's. Can I get you cat cookies?
Right.
I love it. A mourner in the community once told me the worst thing to say to somebody who's experiencing a loss is, "Let me know how I can help."
Right.
Because, or like, "I'm here if you need anything." I mean, we say this with the right intentions, but what it does is it places the burden on the mourner.
Yes.
Instead of saying like, "Hey, do you need someone to walk your dog this week? Because I'm going to be in the neighborhood," which is actually like it. And then what that signals is, maybe I don't need someone to walk the dog, but I do actually need someone to pick something up from Trader Joe's. So could you, I hope Trader Joe's is sponsoring this episode, by the way, for all these shout outs.
Bless. And Erewhon. We talked about Erewhon earlier. We're going high low.
Very grateful to Trader Joe's.
Right.
No, it's incredible. Well, okay. Rabbi Sharon, we're not going to keep you for the entire day, although I could. I really could. We could do.
I could talk to the two of you all day.
To you. Yeah.
We could do a 4-hour podcast on the Amen effect.
I could be your first person to come 3 times.
That's true. Yeah. We could have another part.
It seems likely.
It does seem likely.
It seems likely.
I just was going to say to both of you, I really hope that your mother's memory is always a blessing to you, Caissie, and that you feel her presence reverberating in this world for good for many years to come. And your friend Kate, I hope that, and I know that she knew that how much you loved her, and I hope that you continue to feel her love in this world, really for decades and decades to come. And I feel like the more we talk about them and lift up and both the experience of being a mourner, but also who they were in the world and what they cared about, we're helping to preserve their memory and to ensure that they stay with us even many, many years after they're gone. So I bless you that you continue to feel them both very, very deeply for the rest of your lives.
Well, thank you so much. And also may your father's memory be a blessing. I know it is for you and everyone that loved him and knew him and also just loves and knows you in all different ways.
Knows him through you,
which is the greatest gift that we give our children, that our parents give us.
Yes.
That our great-grandparents and our great-great-grandparents, our ancestors.
Yeah.
I think about that a lot,
Yeah. Yeah. I always go back, since I lost my mom, and maybe this will help you too. I don't know. I go back to our friend Julia Duffy, who's an actor, a wonderful actor, one of the funniest people, I think, in the world. But she lost her son, and she came on the podcast, and she wasn't sure she was going to talk about it, but then she decided that she wanted to talk about it in that moment. And I was so grateful for it, because she said this one thing that I'll never, ever forget, is that she is still his mother. She's being his mother in a different way. Mm-hmm. And so that's what I've just been thinking about, like how we're being, busy here, being a friend to Kate in the same way. And then also how you and I we're still daughters. We're just, we're being daughters in a different way. And, but we are still who we were, and they are still here in the ways that they are now here.
Yeah.
It just reminds me of this, my friend, Brian McLaren, who's a wonderful pastor and author. He wrote a new book that's coming out soon called Life After Doom, about the climate crisis. And in it, he quotes Mary Oliver from one of her Wild Geese poems, and she says something. She's talking about witnessing these beautiful birds, and then they fly away. And she says, "But it's okay because when I saw them, I saw them." And like, what does it mean to live and love so deeply now that even when they're gone, we're still living with them and loving them because when we saw them, we really saw them. And I think that's how their presence continue to reverberate and their spirits continue to reverberate in this place based on the depth of the encounter that we had with them when they were here.
Oh, I think that's true.
So beautiful. And we're so lucky. And we're so lucky to have you come and speak with us.
Thank you. I'm so grateful. I love talking to you too.
Yeah, we love having you. And also, listen, a great time for this book. I have to say, I really think it is divine timing, right? Like maybe even I know in moments has felt probably weird to have this book coming into this world in this moment. Like I can't exactly imagine, but it is so valuable, and it is very much something that I feel really strongly that like we all can continue to go back to and remember. Amen. I see it. I see you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Amen. I so appreciate that. Thank you.
Okay, Rabbi Sharon, have a wonderful rest of your day and Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. And I'm sure we'll talk to you soon.
Yeah.
All right, wear your sparkly dress, Busy.
I got it. I got my sparkles on. There's going to be lots of joy this year and also some glass breaking. Do you know what I mean? Like we'll remember We'll remember. Beautiful. I'm actually so excited. I'll tell you one more thing. We don't have to put this in the podcast if you want. But the premiere I'm in the Mean Girls musical movie, and it's so tied to weird feelings for me because when I was filming it, that I was only on set for a week because I play the mom. So it's like, about the kids, but I'm only on set for a week. And that week was the week that Birdie had her first seizure, and I couldn't go back because I was out far away on location. But Birdie's dad, was there immediately and was with her. And it was the week that Kate was diagnosed with cancer. And so I have like this, it's like an incredible joy for me to like be able to do this movie and to have fun and to get this job. And then it was just tied. So it was so tied to these two things that have been incredibly painful and stress and upset, and loss for me in this last year. And so then I was thinking about the premiere and like, how am I going to feel about this moment? And Birdie's coming, even she's going to go back to boarding school late. So she's going to be there with me. And then I invited Kate's older son and his girlfriend to come into the city and go to the premiere with us. Cause I just thought like, I'm just going to like celebrate with him and his girlfriend and let them have like a fun night at a fun thing. Yeah. They're 17 seniors in high school.
And part of her will be there.
And she'll be there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway.
I wanted to say our hearts are capacious enough to hold both of those truths, both the incredible loss and this, it's wonderful. It's wonderful what's happening, with the film. And so we can hold it. We can hold it all.
I know. I do. I'm really trying. I'm going to do it. Yeah. Because also the thing is you don't want to disconnect, right? That's like what you're talking about. And like, I don't know if maybe on some level, that's why I was like, I would love to invite her son and his girlfriend to come, is that like, I don't want to disconnect from all of the things. Like I want to be able to continue to move forward and hold all true things, which is that this is the world we exist in. And we have to celebrate, but also remember.
Yes.
Rabbi Sharon.
Beautiful.
We adore you. Thank you for being on our podcast. The book is out on the 9th.
Thank you so much.
Yes, very soon. So pre-order it. It really makes a huge difference.
Makes a huge difference.
I know that Rabbi Sharon won't say this because she's a very classy person, but I will say it makes a huge difference to the success of a book, whether if you pre-order it or ask for it in your local independent bookstore or at a chain store if that's where you shop. It really makes a big deal for the author and the success of the book for you to buy it beforehand.
And we're wishing so much success for you, but also just like really important message, especially going into this year with renewed optimism and hope and like, yes, we can do this.
And energy.
The energy of seeing others.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you. You too. Be well.
Bye, Rabbi Sharon. Bye. Oh, she's so great.
Oh, Lumi, 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 Lumi. You guys, you've heard us talk about Lumi before. We love it so much. I love the Lumi products so much. You want to start the new year off fresh? You want your kids to start the new year off fresh? The whole house to be fresh for the new year? Lumi has got you covered. Lumi deodorant is the greatest of all time. The whole body deodorant was designed by an OBGYN to work not only on those pits, but also feet, privates, creases and crevices, the crevasses that need a little bit of love and attention. Lumi has got you covered. It's a one-of-a-kind pH optimized formula, clinically proven to block odor all day long. Guys, Lumi is incredible. And I'm serious. Rub it on your kids' feet. When you have those kids that have the stinky feet, it's only a period of time that they go through it. If you're like a parent and you're currently in stinky feet time, just know it won't last forever. But also know that Lumi is your best friend. And it's a game changer. The whole body deodorant is a game changer for you and your family. You're going to thank me. You got to use code BEST at LumiDeodorant.com and you're going to get $5 off Lumi's starter pack with our exclusive code and link. It's a special offer for new customers. Just you guys listening. $5 off Lumi's starter pack with our exclusive code. Use BEST, code BEST at LumiDeodorant.com. LumiDeodorant.com and use code BEST. Guys, that equates to over 40% off your starter pack when you visit LumiDeodorant.com and use code BEST. We love you, Lumi. We love you so much. The sandwich has landed. The Erewhon sandwich has landed.
Oh my gosh. I know you know this, and I saw that you thanked Mark in like your year-end. You said lots of nice things about lots of nice people. I love that you thanked Mark because I right now am just like, every time I see you two and I see the way that like you're operating things or whatever, and I'm sure there have been plenty of people who are like, what are these two doing? Like they're not
so
together.
Fucking annoying.
But I just am like,
I'm saying those people are annoying, guys. Not me and Mark. I mean,
but what I'm saying
sometimes
is like,
annoying.
If my parents had made that choice to like be able to call each other and ask, would you get me a sandwich or whatever, my life would have been so much less stressful and so much nicer. I just like, huge props to you both for being like the kind of person that needs a sandwich and being the kind of person that is like, yes, I'll get you that sandwich.
Here's the sandwich.
Oh my God. She's actually going to get the sandwich at the door. The sandwich has been procured.
Ooh, the sandwich. Erewhon. Okay, it's $15, guys. But it is
too wild
for like a giant turkey bacon collared wrap. Sandwich.
I don't think that's too bad.
Avocado is worth its price in gold. I feel like avocado is so expensive these days.
I always wonder why avocado isn't cheaper here in Los Angeles.
Because they're just because they're just like inflation. If we can get it, we're going to charge it.
That's right.
The best place to shop always is the farmer's market, I have to say, for produce. It's the cheapest place.
Probably.
No, it for sure is.
I don't know. Like I said, I never shop. So I don't.
Right. That's true. You don't go to
That's my one real privilege that I can really brag about in life is that I really never have to shop. She looks very happy, everyone.
Oh, I'm so excited.
Delicious turkey, collard green wrap sandwich.
I won't eat on, guys, I just needed one bite.
Yeah, you need like a little bite.
I need like a bite, guys.
A little bite. Well, it's like the second it got here, you were waiting for it.
So good.
And also you have to, can we say you have to go get your hair colored?
Yeah.
So,
I don't think it's a secret.
We ain't got all day. You got to get some bites of that sandwich before getting your hair colored. I should also get my hair colored too, because like I noticed that the top of it is like some color that I don't even recognize, you know? Like
I don't see it. What are you talking about?
Like my roots are growing out, but they're it's been so long since I've been bleaching my hair that like what is growing out is like a color that I don't remember having or recognize. It's like a soup color, a weird, like the color of a broth, a dark broth.
Caissie, I don't even know what to say to them. That's insane. That's literally insane.
So I gotta figure out some situation.
A wild journey.
Have you had a nice time in Los Angeles?
Oh, yeah. Yesterday was so beautiful. New Year's Day.
Yeah.
It was so beautiful out.
Such a gorgeous day.
I spent
here.
most of the day like just sitting outside with BB and chatting. The kids were off with friends and on their own journeys.
Which is so great.
It is great
That they were able to do that, see their friends.
Yeah, they've been having a really nice time too with being here. And I gotta say, you guys, I understand why lots of people love living in California.
Yeah. Yeah.
The sunshine really makes a difference.
It does make a difference. There was an earthquake, I think, yesterday. But
yesterday morning, I didn't feel it.
I didn't notice it. I was already at the parade. I didn't notice it at all. The sunshine makes a difference. I also think like it makes a difference in just how you feel like, oh, it's sunny.
Yes.
But also I think it makes a difference socially. That's been my experience, just that people are less isolated maybe.
Well, yeah, because you're out and about.
You're out and about and you're
but
doing
I would
things.
say, but even in New York, when it's cold, but it's bright sun, it feels different.
Yeah, it makes a difference.
It makes a difference. And I do think like that vitamin D is necessary.
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
So I've been enjoying my time here and feeling like, especially with like work stuff and things that I'm like looking forward to next in this new year.
Yeah.
This year.
Yeah.
This year.
2024. She's here.
She's here. She's ready. She's ready. I feel like I'm going to be spending more time here, like back and forth, you know? So, and Mark is needed to be here a lot for work as well.
Yeah.
So it's a little complicated because of school stuff with the kids. But I think we might, I think I'm going to look to see if maybe there's like a small rental place I could get, just because staying in hotels is oppressive.
It's a lot.
Well, it's a lot. It's a lot of money.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And like, you can kind of like rent a small place
for the amount. Yeah.
For the amount of money that I've spent in hotels in the last like couple months.
Yeah.
I could be like, that would be like 4 months rent. It feels like.
Right.
I don't know, because I haven't really done the math. But that's what it feels like.
She's going to crunch the nums and see.
I am going to crunch the nums. I'm going to crunch some nums. And I'm going to see. shut it. I'm going to have somebody else crunch the numbs for me because, crunching numbs, not my strong suit. It's not.
I've been crunching numbs so much lately. I think I wrote on the Substack about this, but I switched my savings from a regular savings account to a high yield savings account, which is like not, it's not a lot of money that we're talking about here, but the joy that I got from seeing the interest deposited, like the high yield interest, as opposed to like the $6 that my bank account garnered all last year prior to moving it. I mean, listen, here's what I'm going to say. I don't think it's ever too late to learn how to crunch the numbs, and whether you have someone do it for you or you do it for yourself. Like, I think that's a really smart idea to take a look at it. And, I love practicality, and I love not spending more money than you need to spend.
Well, it also would make some of my closet situation better because I could just ship a bunch of clothes here.
True.
And then I would have my West Coast closet, and my East Coast closet. But the truth is, I don't wear like I have like held on to a lot of clothes that I really only do wear on the West Coast.
Right.
Because of just like the style. It's just
different
reasons.
Yeah. You're a different you on the East Coast than you are here.
Well, the shoe game is totally different. I mean, thank God for the incongruous sneaker look or whatever.
Yeah.
But like, I don't wear like really flat sandals in New York City.
Right.
Because I can't have my
your
feet that close
to the New York City.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not.
I personally don't agree with anyone wearing sandals in New York City at any time.
I'll wear a platform sandal. I will wear a platform sandal.
And you're like a very skilled person, but if you've ever seen someone take a sandal off after a day being out in the city,
it is vile.
It's repulsive.
I mostly, just to be honest, don't wear a sandal in New York, just because it's like, no, I have like some platform sandals, and that's about as far as I'll go.
I don't want some pizza rat coming up and biting my foot.
My God, that's the last thing I need. No, I'm not bringing that energy into this year. But so I don't know. So I'm thinking about this coming year and all of the things that might be happening, and I am feeling optimistic. And even in thinking about like global and local political and our country's political landscape and all of those things, like there are going to be so much of this at this point, I feel like has been designed to spin us the fuck up.
Yeah.
And I did just feel, and especially talking to Rabbi Sharon just now, that our job is to de-escalate. Because if they won't fucking do it, we have to do it. We all have to do it. We have to de-escalate. And it doesn't mean not showing up, and it doesn't mean not making calls or speaking out for the things that you believe in and calling your reps, you know, to demand they take action, or putting, you know, your support and money behind politicians that align with your ideologies. It doesn't mean like ignoring.
Right.
You know, I'm always really disheartened when I encounter someone who is like, oh, I don't even pay attention.
Right. That is such a bummer.
It's a bummer. But I also have realized, especially this past year, that that one cannot be a full-time engager in all of the things that need to be fixed all of the time. And like, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And the grief of all of it, because it is too much to consistently hold.
Right.
And B, like, you're going to encounter your own difficulties and your own loss and your own grief. And when those things happen, you really can't hold both. You really can't.
Right.
And like, I was not fully aware of it.
Yeah.
But,
well,
you know,
it makes me think of this has been a really big thing for me. And I hope that I'm not like mangling a metaphor or whatever. One thing that has been a big deal to me because of how I was raised is I don't believe in belaboring a point ever. Like if I say, you let me down, I'm disappointed in the way that you reacted to that. I already said it. I said it straight. And that's how it is. And however you choose to like deal with my feelings or not deal with my feelings, okay, that's where but I really don't believe in having a protracted conversation for 4 hours or 4 days or about how you let me down, because you already got the point. There's no point to me in belaboring the point. And I kind of feel that way about, well, all things in life. Like sometimes when someone's like raging, not at me, but toward me about something that they're angry about, or they're very sad about something, and they're, like I often want to ask like, okay, so what are you doing about it? What are we doing about this? And if the answer is like nothing, I just want to continue to be angry or upset about it. Like, I'm not saying that's not valid. I'm just saying like, that's one choice. It's not something that I can like assist that person in. You know what I mean? Like I'm like, I can't like help you continue to belabor your anger or your sadness or whatever. But if you tell me like, here's a thing that I want to do, and then I'm like, okay, I can join you in that. I can like help you with that or whatever. Like I'm very concrete and black and white in that way. But I think it does help me sometimes to just, say like, what are we doing about that? And sometimes the answer is like, we're not doing anything about it. But checking out 100% and not being aware is never the answer, even though, as like we just talked about, like sometimes it's what your instinct is to turn away. But I think it's really hard. We've all been trying to do the best we can, but we haven't had a great set of tools.
No, and I was thinking a little bit about like two things that Rabbi Sharon said. Number one, these like false binaries that have become sort of like a thing in recent time.
Yeah, they're like little tests.
It's like little tests, and it's not actually the way the world works, and it's not actually helpful.
Right.
And we talk about on this podcast, you guys, and it's a thing that I continually have to challenge myself to do, which is like hold multiple truths, hold multiple ideas that may even seem like they're in direct opposition to one another.
Right.
Because that is literally what being a person requires of us.
Right.
Always has. But with social media and the advent of like the 24-hour news cycle and, politically affiliated news organizations.
Yes. And what we're being shown. That idea has slowly but surely been whittled down and away for so many people, right,
where they actually aren't able to see two things or hold two things.
Right.
And I get it. Like, I do get it, because so frequently it's hard for me,
What's been kind of so eye-opening to me, and I'm so grateful for the people that are bringing it up, is like, I'm seeing so many people that are like, I feel a certain way about this one thing, and I'm either so angry or I'm so sad that I can't even like continue on with my day. I've seen that with a lot of my friends, and like, I'm not even specifying like which of those two. And then a person will come along and be like, well, do you know this whole other thing has been happening somewhere else in the world? And like, you can never compare, but it's like kind of equivalent to the thing that has you so sad. And like, did you even know that? And I know sometimes it probably feels like an attacking sort of like, you can't claim that you're so sad about this one thing when you were completely ignorant of this other thing that didn't affect you at all and didn't sadden you at all. I get it that it could probably feel like that, and it might feel like that if someone pointed it out to you. But I just think that it's so important, and it's really generous when people are like, just FYI, this is the way that I'm choosing to interpret it. Just FYI, all of this pain that you are feeling, I see it. And also I know what I'm talking about because this is the pain that I have been carrying.
Right.
And it didn't affect you, but we have that kind of hurt in common. And so it is kind of generous to bring it up because you don't know how someone's gonna react to that, especially in not the best moment. But I'm really appreciating like the education that I'm getting from everyone who is like, just so you know, like, this is my perspective and this is what I think of when I see. It's a lot. Everybody's like saying a lot, and everybody has huge spots where we haven't been seeing everything, I guess I sound like I'm talking in riddles. I know what I mean, but
I'm fully on board with your vibes.
Yeah, it's
with your vibes. No, I just feel like, look, I think that the idea of what is it that we can do in this world, right? Like, I've been thinking a lot about this because I, obviously had said in December, like, I'm not even sure if I want to continue doing this podcast.
Yeah.
And I think, like, for both of us, I do think the showing up through this past year has been both a blessing and at times, I think, too fucking heavy for both of us.
Yeah.
And I've worried about your healing.
Yeah.
More than my own, really. Which I guess makes sense. But at the same time, in talking about, like, how do we find connection in this world, in this increasingly sort of pulled apart, lonely, isolated existence that we're all kind of finding ourselves in. Yeah. Where do we build those third spaces, those community spaces? And like, when I think about the people who listen to this podcast, how beautiful that community is and how supportive and grateful and truly caring all of the people that listen to this podcast are.
Yeah.
Both, like, if you're like a person that's like, on the Facebook group or Substack or whatever, or if you're just like a person that just listens to it and, I don't know, like, carries it with you in your own way. Yeah. Right? Like, I just feel, I've just met people who like listen to the podcast who I know aren't involved like in the...
They're not taking the 3-pronged approach.
Well, they're just not, they're not like Secret Santa-ing on the Facebook page, but they are like, thank you so much for this and that, right, or when you said this thing. And I feel like there is real value to these kinds of podcasts. I don't think it necessarily has to be us. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like,
right.
I just don't.
Yeah.
But I think that there is, I mean, you definitely, because it needs to be you. But I do think that part of like one way of building out these third spaces can be these podcasts and conversations. But I do think that like remaining, this is the thing that I think that we do because we're women and also because we're us. the part that's so important is that we don't know everything.
Right.
And that we're not ever saying that we do.
Right.
And we, in fact, like sometimes don't even fucking know how to continue on.
Right.
But we're just going to, well, we sort of just keep showing up because we have to, you know?
What else are you going to do?
What else are you going to do? That being said, guys, maybe start a book club. Maybe in your own cities and states, maybe there's like some ways to like, we can all sort of start our own little, maybe you need a mom group. Sometimes mom groups are the best things because you really do get a cross section of like political beliefs, like ideas and things. And if you like get to know some other parents, you might be able to have those conversations like
in a way
Rabbi Sharon was talking about, in a way that could be really productive and helpful, you know?
Yeah.
And ask and genuinely curious.
Yeah. Which is, I mean, I'll be honest, like a little bit of a reversal of where I have been at in the past. But I just feel like, well, listen, we're here. You know what I mean? And there have been times when I know that I have been talking to someone, whether they're in my family or a neighbor, who probably doesn't agree with the bumper stickers on my car.
Coexist.
You know, I love that one.
It was, as Emily Beebe told me, it was a New York Times crossword answer recently.
But I will say that, you know, sometimes those are the folks that live right next door to you. And like, yeah.
I just think like it is an idea that I know what you're saying. Cause like you know that I also have had the moments where I'm like, fuck them. I don't want to hear their sides.
You don't exist
I don't
to me.
give a fuck.
Right.
And I mean, it's hard because there are, you know,
well, because
also what it requires is two sides to be willing participants.
Right.
In an idea of connection.
Right.
In an idea of greater understanding.
Right.
And unfortunately, what has been my experience a lot with a side of, well, because they're wrong.
right.
So it's like there's no way to be
There's
except
nowhere
for
to go.
defensive and mean.
Right.
Like if you're actually like you actually can't defend denying rights and like stripping away of dignity.
Right.
You can't defend that.
Right.
So the only way they can be, they tend to be is like insulting and cruel.
Right.
Which aligns with the ideology.
Right.
But I guess if you were to cut through it, the question would be, but why?
Right.
Why do you feel like it is so important for you to see this, to see that these rights are not being had by others?
And sometimes like when you get down to like the nugget in the middle of it, it's like, it's whatever, like that, it's against my religious beliefs. Mm-hmm. And then you say like, well, those aren't my religious beliefs. And so we disagree.
Right.
But anyway, I'll still wave to you.
I know. And that idea that she was saying, that like Venn diagram idea, which I think is so true, which is that like we so frequently now are being pitted against one another by the like most outer ring of our belief system.
Yeah.
Or even like a couple ticks in closer to the overlap, but still outside
not
of
the center,
the center, on the outside of
the crispy edges.
On the crispy edges, like that bacon and that wrap guys from Erewhon. And yeah, I guess starting on the interior feels like that's the way to do it, you know?
Yeah.
But again, I do also feel like it requires the willingness of participation by both sides.
Yeah. I guess well, in the case of like say a neighbor, the participation can maybe start with like the saying hello, you know, and just like seeing each other as like worthy of saying hello to, and then get into it from there. It's a lot of fucking work, not gonna lie. Like anything, it's a lot of work, and it's a lot of maintenance, and so I see why it's hard, but also I see why it's worthwhile to have those conversations, which is something that some people have said all along. Like, it's up to us to have these conversations when we can. So, yeah. But you have to go get your hair colored.
I gotta go get my hair done, guys.
Is that what you're doing your best at? Getting your hair done?
No, I think I really did my best at.
You did.
At getting into this new year, and like, I woke up the next morning and wrote the post that I posted. If you saw it, I don't know how the algorithm works these days, guys, but my New Year's Day post. Because I woke up the next morning just thinking how grateful I was for, oh no, I'm going to cry, but just how grateful I was for you and for all of those people that were at that party.
Yeah.
And for all of my friends.
Yeah.
And the people that became friends with me this year, who took me at my literal weirdest worst.
Yeah.
And were willing to be like, I can hold this shit for you. Sure, let's do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
How can I help? Like, and not just how can I help, like just calling and checking in. Like, you know, you know, and my children, like my kids, and yes, Mark, because this has been the worst, hardest year. I think honestly, on record.
Yeah.
Full stop.
Yeah.
Hardest, worst, hardest.
Yeah.
And Mark, you know, being so willing to continually, like, just in many ways intuit, like, what I might need, making sure I was eating.
Yeah.
Like, really taking care of me. Yeah. I'm the mother of his fucking children.
He knows you and he loves you.
We love each other. We know each other. And like, it's not been easy. And I know I will return it for him in a moment that he needs it.
Yeah.
And also for his understanding with, like, sometimes I would take things out on him that were just not for him, you know, that sucks.
Right.
And
right.
You know, that's complicated, but that's its own thing. But
well, that's a thing that, you know, that's a thing to work on in 2024.
Totally. But so grateful for those things. So grateful for the work that I was able to have this year, even you know, amidst the strikes.
Yeah.
Like, so grateful that I got to do this movie that's coming out. I'm grateful for Girls 5 Eva season 3 that's going to come out in March, and all 3 seasons will be on Netflix, and I'm like so excited about it.
Yeah.
And so grateful for this podcast.
Yeah.
Too. Even though, like, I have to hold both things.
Yeah. That sometimes it's hard.
Sometimes it's hard. And also this past year, I sometimes have been concerned that it hasn't been the best thing for you and I to do.
Right.
Like, because, you know, that, like, is it Anne Lamott that's like, don't write about something if you haven't processed it, right? Like, and it feels like we were in real time processing so much that we were like talking about. And that's, but also the generosity of Kate and her husband, and for like allowing me to share in the ways that I have shared what my experience with her being sick and passing away, you know, like it's incredibly generous.
Yeah. It's literally everything. It's like the most you could give.
And you know, and I like had a couple moments last week, like leading up to the New Year's Eve, where I was like looking through photos from the last year. I'm like, I found so many screenshotted fucking text message exchanges with my ex-boyfriend. Oh my God, you guys. What a fucking shit show.
What a shit show.
That was a shit show. And it was just making me upset. And like, I was just like, fuck this. I don't want to even, I'm not even, like, cause but then, okay, so I didn't do, I didn't do anything. And then took the note from Katie and we went to the party and we had a great time. My kids were there. Like, it was just fucking great. And woke up the next morning and was like, these are the things that got me through this year.
Yeah.
These are the things that I'm so grateful I have in abundance in my life. I have an abundance of love and art and beauty and like fucking amazing dresses to wear when I need them. and I have been so lucky to have an abundance of work, even in, and like, even though I feel like I haven't been the most prolific creatively, in terms of like my own generating of ideas and writing and, like that kind of stuff, which is important to me.
Yeah.
Like the fact that I've been able to do pottery this year and do like art stuff.
Right.
And just all like, I'm just so, I have so much to be so grateful for. And I really felt it. Like it wasn't just like lip service, like fake it till you make it vibes. Like I literally woke up and was like, what an incredible thing that I've had this year.
Yeah. I think that's what I did my best at too, is that like this week and this season, and my husband will get annoyed that I'm talking about this because he came in the middle of me having this conversation with our friend Laura and he was like, oh God, oh. But this week and this season has made me realize that like life is like a series of ski jumps, right? Like, or ski runs. I'm not a skier. I don't know skiing terminology.
I don't know why you would choose skiing. You're doing it, but we're going for it.
I think it makes sense, right? Because people who love skiing really love skiing. And like, you could be a great skier. One time out of 100 times, you're going to wipe out. You're going to crash on the ski run. And that's the way that like life and holidays and years and seasons are. Like sometimes you're going to have a run where you really fucking crash and hit every tree and every bump and it's spectacular and everyone sees it. But to be able to get up at the bottom and say, I would like to do that again. That's how I felt this year. Like I felt like it was a crazy, terrible year, but I really felt like at the bottom of it, I would like to do that again.
Same. That's exactly right.
Like, let me get one more chance at that. Let me get 100 more chances. But all I know is that like right now, what I can ask for is like, I would like to get a chance to do that again. And, this is what made Matt crazy, is that I said that I had such a nice holiday season that all I can think of is like, I hope that I get another one, which is like, I'm not saying like I won't, that's like a big fear, although it, that's real. Like your friend had a holiday season and I don't think that she probably thought that she was not going to have another one at that time.
Did not.
Right. And so we just don't know. So all I'm saying is that was so nice. I would like to get up from the bottom of it and get another chance to do it again. And
I would say it was not so nice and you would still like to get up and do it again.
Yes. That's what I mean. I'd like to do it 100 more times. I'm getting to the point in my life where like I'm getting near to the age where people in my family weren't here anymore. And so I think it makes you see it more acutely and more keenly. I'd like to do it 100 more times. I probably won't get to do it 100 more times. But I want to do it as many times as I can. And some of them are gonna not be great.
Yeah.
They're not going to be my best work.
Yeah.
Yeah. But some of them are going to be great.
Yeah.
And so that's really what I want. I just want to get up and not literally ski. I never want to literally ski.
I'm never going to literally ski either.
Yeah.
You know, I have those knees. There's no fucking way. Ehlers-Danlos, I don't think it's for us.
It's not for us.
It's not for us.
No,
it's not for her.
But the metaphor being like,
Yeah.
I really want to get up to the top of the mountain and try and see if I can make it down. And sometimes you're going to crash. Sometimes it's going to be beautiful. It's going to be a thing to behold. And I don't know at the top of the hill which it's going to be, but I want to get to the back to the top of the hill and try again.
Well, honey, we are on that ski lift currently. We're about to jump off at the top because here we are.
Here we go.
And now we go. We're just, and guys, wishing you just only, I don't even know what, I was going to try to come up with some skiing terminology.
We don't know.
We just
But
wishing
here
you some.
Here you go too. Here we all go.
Here we all go. We're ready. We're strapped in. We've got our helmets on. Thank God.
We'll see you at the bottom.
And we'll see you. Well, we'll see you before then.
Along the way.
We'll see you along the way. We're just going to see you along the way. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. We love you so much. Thank you for everything this year.
Yes, thank you. Seriously.
We love you.
Love you. Bye.
I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm doing my best.
Oh no.